motion for that.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education of USD 501 recess into executive session for 60 minutes to discuss confidential personnel matters pursuant to the personnel exception of the Kansas Open Meetings Act to protect the privacy of the individuals discussed. The board will return to open session in the boardroom at 6:32 p.m. The superintendent and executive staff are invited into executive session.
Is there a second on that motion? Mr. Tatum. And we'll look for a vote if there's no other discussion.
The vote is open. And I will mark Dr. Beeson not present at vote. The motion carries.
Great, thank you.
It defaults too hot. And that's what I was just getting ready to show JJ how we gotta turn it down.
Just scooting back.
Yeah, it defaults completely all the way up.
Oh, yeah, yours goes all the way to.
So we just got,
Yeah, wow.
Everybody wants to hear you.
yeah, we got, it's not, I turned it down.
I gotta add up to it.
Every time.
They're going back.
Took it out earlier on Friday.
Let's get, that's what I told. Let's go, young lady. You ready? What's just, you know, I haven't seen yet. Off the right now. Off the right now. It'll take a little second. It's an hour, right? Yes. Okay, I'll go so. So, I just want to make sure. Okay, so. This is, part of the.
Well, I'm gonna be there part-time. But, I believe their intention. I don't know if you know. Their plan to do. It was fun. Yeah. Yeah. And then you got it. Question. You might want to share some stuff. I know the process. Either. The only issue is Mexican. Yeah, I saw they. So usually they try not to. With the first meeting. In July. But we can decide, I mean, I can. We were just wanting to celebrate, collaboration. Or something. Maybe. Right before. Next week after that, would be a good time to do it. But if it can't work, that's fine. It wouldn't. Okay. So. What I was sent me. Copy it to the board and. Okay. And that will. All right, thank you very much. I think we are gonna have an executive session that. And once they realize that tonight, they may want to go ahead and leave it at nighttime. Normally, it was just money closeout meeting and a small agenda. But we already have. Thank you very much. You bet. Pretty sure my. I always try to tip them.
My son worked in the service industry for a long time. Restaurants, bartending, bouncing.
But everything.
And God, the horror stories you hear about tips and stuff.
They can. Prove on mine.
So when I go out to eat, I'll pay if I pay my bill on a card, tip is cash. And it's a minimum of $20.
appointments today?
Yeah, the one I'm reading. I know.
Can't wait to be off tomorrow.
Mm.
I'm not answering my phone, so you text me or call me. What's the plan? What do you guys got planned tomorrow? Anything planned or?
I forgot what we were. Well, I have an appointment at around 9,
That's fine.
and I need to go to the bank, and then we're gonna go to breakfast.
Thought about getting up on the breakfast. 10 like first watch now.
Yeah, it is good. We went to the one in Lawrence last weekend. Last Tuesday when I was off.
I normally get I like pancakes. I get the trifecta.
I usually get the Bocado, but I tried the Florida pancake, French toast. Floridian French toast. Oh, that was good.
Somebody told me to get grits there.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh yeah, they were good.
My husband says they're the best he's ever eaten. He loves grits. My favorite was always cream of wheat.
That's right. Okay. Oh, you got him, Mr. Williams? Yeah. English and Spanish. I had 4 of each, but I don't get many, but.
Oh, oh, Cole quit signed a 1 day.
Yeah, I thought it was years ago.
They said in 21, he hasn't been. in
I know,
the NFL.
I thought he, yeah. That's why I was like, he's still technically just eligible to play. I didn't know that.
But that's like Tony Gonzalez, you know, he came back from one.
Yeah, a lot of players do that. I guess that makes sense though. Usually they give it 3 years. Nobody calls them. Nobody calls them 3 years. And they think, okay, we'll hang up then. I'll give it 3 years. That's the other button. It's average when you call them. No one ever does. What's your role, man? Yeah, actually, I've actually with AAA. There's one, so it's by the AAA. Didn't know this will work for sign on very well. So.
Okay, it is 6:32. I didn't want Mrs. Whitman to get mad at me, so. But before the pledge, I do want to take a moment of silence. Honor, remember the members of the Topeka Public Schools, the students, staff members who recently transitioned, Mrs. Anderson, who is a preschool teacher at Sheldon, and then Henry, who is a freshman at Topeka High School. So please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Okay, and now I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Anderson.
All right, and we have some guests with us wearing orange today. Can you please join me as we all stand with you to do the pledge? He's here. And I think, oh, there you go. Well, we're going to take that flag off because we have a flag in the room. And really, this allows for the audience to see who's with us. Thank you so much. And we'll start.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. A little later in the board meeting, you'll get a chance to hear why they're wearing orange and learn a little bit more about what we're acknowledging this month.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We'll move on in the agenda. With up next is the adoption of the agenda, so I will look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a second for that? Mr. Munoz, any discussion on the agenda? If not, we will look for a vote.
And the vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries.
Thank you. And then I will turn it back over to Dr. Anderson for highlights.
Thank you. Our highlight this evening is someone that most people know, but without me introducing him from Highland Park High, I'll turn it over to Miss Ethel Edwards, who's been the interim executive director for the Topeka Public Schools Foundation. She is absolutely incredible. And she will give introductions on who the new director is and will be. I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Okay. The Topeka Public Schools Foundation is proud to announce the appointment of Fred Willer as its new executive director. Mr. Willer brings with him over 2 decades of dedicated service to Topeka Public Schools, having spent the last 24 years as a social worker at Highland Park High School. Throughout his career, Mr. Willer has built strong, enduring relationships with community partners and has been a passionate advocate for student success and well-being. His extensive experience and deep commitment to public education makes him uniquely qualified to lead the foundation into its next chapter. Fred is honored to step into this role and looks forward to working alongside our community to expand educational opportunities for all students in Topeka Public Schools. The foundation is excited about the future and confident that under Mr. Willer's leadership, it will continue to grow its impact supporting students and families across the district, because we love Topeka Public Schools. And here's Fred.
Thank you so much, Ethel. I just wanted to thank the board. I want to thank Dr. Anderson. I want to thank 501, my students, their families, the community, and everyone who has faith in me taking on this role. I appreciate this opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege. I enjoyed each of my 24 years working at Highland Park High School, and I'm really looking forward to this new opportunity. Raising funds and support throughout the community for our kids and their families is a passion of mine, always has been. And so I get to just walk into a role that just suits me, and I feel really happy and excited about it. So thank you to everyone who made this possible, but a special thank you to Ethel, who has been my friend and mentor through this process and is helping me to hit the ground running. This really means a lot to me, and I plan to give it my best.
Are there comments from the board for Mr. Willer? Sue?
I'll get to you in a second. Ethel Edwards, you stepped into an enormous position and came to us and helped us further the foundation. And for you to do that was remarkable. Because you could have said, no, I'm not going to do that. And you didn't. You said yes. And what you stepped into and improved and helped push forward in a time of need, I think our district has a huge thank you for you. And if they don't, I'm going to say, hey, thanks. I really appreciate your leadership in a difficult situation. Thank you. Now you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are so happy. And when I heard the news, I just thought this is just wonderful. And we are so excited to see you further it along again and the surprises you're going to bring and the golf tournament. I know there were a lot of people who were alongside you and Ethel to create that, but we had three times the carts, which meant three times, well, more than that. I got a math teacher in the room over there, but people, it was just a really nice event. And if that's what we get to look forward to with your leadership, it's going to be wonderful. So congratulations. And I always tell people, don't retire like I did. And you like retiring like I did. Oh my goodness. But thank you for doing that. Great. We're very excited for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything else? Yes, Ms. Schmidt.
You know, you were kind of on my list when I saw that you were going to retire, and you told me just hang tight and be patient and you'll see why. And you get a bye from me. So that because you landed in that role, I'll forgive you the retiring from your other role.
I appreciate
I'm
it.
excited to see what you're going to do here.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well,
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Willer.
thank you.
Thank you.
And today is Wear Orange Day, and I know you're wondering why. So we're going to call our two guests to come on up to share with you and the public of why we are wearing orange. Proclamation. On your agenda, there's the proclamation, but as we turn it over to them, if that's part of your speech, and
I've got some prepared remarks. Is that okay?
Please do.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
so much. Good evening. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you so much for having us. My name's David, and this is Christy. And we are volunteers with the Kansas chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, which is a grassroots volunteer-led organization that seeks to reduce gun violence in the United States through a combination of advocacy, education, and community engagement. We're here to express solidarity with victims and survivors of gun suicides, homicides, and unintentional shootings. Every day in the United States, more than 120 people are killed by a gun. Well over half of these are suicides, and in Kansas, the figure is almost 70%. According to the Annals of Internal Medicine, the presence of a gun in the home triples the risk of death by suicide. Most people who attempt suicide without a gun survive, and most who survive one attempt do not die by suicide later. But a gun's lethality makes it unlikely that a suffering person will live to see a brighter day. Meanwhile, homicides cause more than 40% of gun deaths in America and almost 30% in Kansas. These can take place anywhere in our community: schools, parks, workplaces, and homes. Unarmed people often get caught in the crossfire, like Hadia Pendleton, the 15-year-old band kid whose death in 2013 in Chicago inspired the Wear Orange movement. Domestic violence is a driving force in gun homicide, as in the case of Taisha McNair, the young Topeka mom whose murder in 2009 left a void in the life of her entire family. According to the American Journal of Public Health, a gun in the home increases the risk of murder by an intimate partner by 500%. In Kansas, as in the rest of the United States, guns are now the leading cause of death for children and teens. Each year, more than 2,600 American kids are killed by someone else. For children under 13, these deaths are usually connected to domestic violence or the unsafe storage of firearms by adults in the home. Of course, gun violence can alter the course of a person's life without ending it. Every day in the US, some 200 people suffer debilitating or irreparable injuries at a cost not just of medical treatment, but of future earning potential that is lost and can't be recovered. Also affected are the family, friends, and loved ones of those who are killed and injured, who become mourners and sometimes caregivers, as well as witnesses to shootings who might relive their trauma for years. We aim to make our schools and communities safer by supporting policies like background checks on all gun sales and red flag laws to keep guns away from people who are a threat to themselves or others. We also support programs like Be Smart, which educates gun-owning adults to keep their weapons unloaded and locked up with ammunition stored separately. But our work begins by supporting victims and survivors. In observing National Gun Violence Awareness Day by wearing orange on Friday, June 6th, we honor them and we dedicate our efforts to them. Thank you. Did you want me to read this?
Read the proclamation.
If you can bear with me for a couple more minutes. Whereas every day, 125 people in the United States are killed by gun violence and more than 260 are shot and wounded, with an average of more than 19,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas people in the United States are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas Kansas has an average of 473 deaths every year with a rate of 5 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $5.7 billion each year, of which $95 million is paid by taxpayers. Kansas has the 19th highest rate of gun deaths in the US. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the school district's highest responsibility, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from those who are a danger to themselves and others, and whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see high levels of gun violence continue to plague our community. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. And on June 6, 2025, to recognize the 28th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born June 2, 1997, people across the United States will recognize Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 6th, the first Friday in June 2025, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 6th, people across the United States will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. And finally, whereas we encourage all schools to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor the value of human lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Topeka Public School Board declares June 6, 2025 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting, June 5th, 2025. Very gratefully received. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, David. Are there questions from the board or comments? Mr. Munoz.
No question. Just I wanted to thank you for your work. Safety is something that we all care about, right? And I think I'm appreciative of the work that you do in the community to make sure that gun safety is the top priority. And unfortunately, it is something that we deal with in our community and in our school district. And so it's something we all bear responsibility for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Boley.
What does your education program look like? Do you do commercials? How do you get your word out about what you're trying to do? I believe it's your organization is Moms Against Violence.
The education part is called Be Smart, and it is primarily a means of educating gun-owning adults about how to secure their guns safely and keep them out of the hands of kids and anyone else who could come into contact with a gun and be a danger to themselves or others. And I don't know, Christy, as a Be Smart volunteer, would you like to say anything about that? Would you like to answer that question at all?
The education piece, as David said, is Be Smart for kids. And he spoke eloquently about what we do. We educate adults that the onus of gun safety and gun storage is never in the hands of children. It's always an adult's responsibility to secure a firearm, both in the home and in vehicles. We are under the umbrella of Moms Demand Action, which is a nationwide group. You may recognize them in their red shirts with the white text. They're a very large organization nationally, and Be Smart is the education piece underneath that.
I would just, I haven't seen like television commercials or billboards or anything. So that's why I was asking, how are you getting your message out? So do you have these classes like at the library with adults?
We work with a number of community partners across the state. We have groups and volunteers in many of the big cities in Kansas. Community partners will reach out to us and ask us to come to their events. And we do what's called tabling, where we provide our information, our pamphlets, and educate adults. And then we also offer free gun locks to adults that would need one to secure their firearm.
Thank you so much for all your efforts. I know you're saving lives every day. Thank you for that.
And Sue, I'll follow that up. So maybe 2 summers ago, Dr. Gray might remember, I don't think it was last summer, we had more gun violence in our community. And so during the summer school that was at Topeka High, there was a Be Smart table outside of summer school. And so it's those community partnerships, and they're at our Family Fun Fitness Night every year as well. And so they do that type of work as a husband to a former Be Smart volunteer. It's pretty grassroots, but the organization meets people where they're at and where it's needed. So I know that the Schumacher House is very appreciative of the work and the ability to honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the comments. Very gracious.
Thank you.
Is that all for?
That is, and I think you said all the thank yous to our partners, but those gun locks are free over the summer, and we are grateful for them and all that they do. You did mention something that perhaps we should be doing is the advertisement, and in terms of letting people know who they are, where they meet, and what they're doing, and we'll explore, is there another way to do that beyond seeing them over the summer with all of our publications and safety materials that we have. But those are all of our highlights, and the presentation highlighting Ross and Eisenhower will be under the SUPS report.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So we'll go down to public communications, and we do have a public communication tonight. We were emailed a letter, and I'm going to pull up her name. Mrs. Shugart emailed us, and so Mrs. Lister, I think it'd be appropriate for it to be read at the board meeting, so Mrs. Lister is going to read it for us.
It's Brooke Shugart, 4747 Southwest Cedar Crest Road, Topeka, Kansas, 66606. Dear TPS board members, I wanted to reach out about the proposed development for the corner of 6th and Fairlawn. I would like this to be read by all of Topeka council members. My name is Brooke Shugart, and I reside in West Hills with my family of 4. We have 2 children that are approaching middle school age and will be attending Landon Middle School. I am concerned about the development of the fuel station because of the effect that it can have on the neighboring school. Currently, the traffic through the school zone is uncontrolled, and police have to monitor and make multiple stops throughout the year to ticket people. This fuel station would add more traffic, including more people from out of the area that are not looking for children. This also poses a hazard to after-school programs, including track and cross-country. Students are required to practice daily on a course at the governor's mansion and will be required to run past traffic that will be using the fuel station. Finally, the most important reason that I am reaching out is because this also has potential to pose a threat of the kidnapping and trafficking of children. The fuel station will enable access to both children and multiple highways going different directions. I hope that you understand my concerns and will think of the families in the area and the children that attend school at Landon Middle School. I have voiced my concerns to the city council members, and they have advised me that this was their first concern related to the school. I am asking that you all please submit an email to them or forward this email as your concern. Their vote takes place on June 17, 2025. They mentioned that if more of the community reached out, it could impact their decision. I please ask that you distribute this concern to the families of Landon and USD 501 schools as well, and give them the council's email. It was not easy to find on the internet. Their email is council@topeka.org. I would also like to request that my email be read at the board meeting scheduled for tomorrow, as I cannot attend. I would like this to be in public comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other public communication, Mrs. Lister?
There is not.
Okay. So we will move on to business by consent. And so I will need a motion for that.
Mr. President, I move the board approves the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Is there a second? Mr. Tatum, is there discussion on any of the items? Seeing none, I will move to a vote.
And the vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries.
Okay, I guess that's me still. Okay, so back to Dr. Anderson for superintendent's report.
We'll be calling Eisenhower and Ross staff up. Dr. Gardner, who is the campus-wide principal, has his team here. And you may remember at one point he shared information about just Ross School Within a School, which was very successful in culture building and in other areas, attendance improvements, parental engagement. Well, that's now expanded. And so he's going to share a little bit about that and introduce you to the key team that he has in place to build upon that. Dr. Gardner, we'll turn it over to you.
And I'm not sure if the PowerPoint could be pulled up. Thank you, Dr. Anderson, and thank you, Board of Education, for allowing us to come speak on our new exciting Ross and Eisenhower campus model. As Dr. Anderson alluded, it was actually 3 years ago, we were speaking in front of the Board of Education
on this new model for Ross Elementary, the school within the school. So to be here 3 years later is pretty meaningful to us to show some of the successes, lessons we learned, and what we're going to do to take that as we build out our campus model. As you know, it can't be done without a great team. And I often say we're better together, and we're just going to spread out a little farther now. So I'll let the team introduce themselves and what their role will be.
Hi, I'm Rita Hink, and I will be the lead assistant principal at Eisenhower Middle School.
I'm Ms. Keck. I will be staying at Ross as the lead assistant principal.
And I'm Rob Kirkwood, and I'll be an assistant principal at Eisenhower Middle School, specifically over the Success Academy, sixth grade Success Academy.
Thank you, guys. So kind of some background, what is a school within the school model? And really it's the first bullet point where it talks about the goal is really targeted support and resources that strengthen school culture and foster a positive school environment. And really that should be a goal of any school across America. Dr. Anderson often talks about systems, and systems that heal are sustainable. And we believe that this model did heal some of the issues that were occurring at Ross. Specifically at Ross, Ross is, those that have been there, is geographically a large school. So it's actually a quarter mile from one end of the building to the other end of the building. So not only is there a large geographic area, we also have close to 600 students that attend Ross Elementary. So what we piloted is we divided the school in half. So we had our preschool, first grade, kindergarten, and second grade side of the building, and then our third, fourth, and fifth grade side of the building. Each school within the school, so the third, fourth, and fifth, had their own assistant principal, counselor, mental health supports, and then the same for the primary side of the building. And what's unique about the model is it can be innovative. So over the last 2 years, we have grown at Ross. So originally we were able to keep the primary kind of on the older part and then the intermediate on the newer part. But since we've grown at Ross, we've had to adapt. And that's what makes the model, I think, unique and innovative, is that you can adapt it based on the school and exactly what you need. So here's some qualitative research based off Ross staff my first year at Ross. And this is the school within the school effect on climate and culture. So the red bars across the screen are all the responses from the staff before the intervention. The blue bars represent after the post-intervention. And it's interesting because it is qualitative, so it's staff perception, but that plays a big part. And it was on a Likert scale 1 through 5. So 1 being it needs some work, 5 being excellent. And I did have the numbers, because I know it's kind of hard to see. The 3 lowest areas rated by Ross staff were communication, which was a 1.5, systems that supported positive school culture was a 1.6, and then the PLC process was a 1.8. And this was taken by 92% of Ross staff. So give or take, we have around 100 staff, so around 92 participants in this survey. We're pleased to share that after 100 days, which when I was writing this is actually from my dissertation. When I was writing my dissertation, some of my academic advisors spoke to, are you sure you can see change within 100 days? Because that's not going to be enough to actually write a whole dissertation on. And at the same time, I believe Ms. Wallace and Dr. Anderson had us meet with Dr. Reeves, who's a consultant for the district, and he wrote a book called Fearless Leadership, and he discussed that real change can occur within 100 days. And as you can see with this data, it does support that change can happen. And the highest areas after the 100 days were 4.1, systems that supported positive school culture, 4.0, communication, and then 3.2 was the PLC process. And what we found interesting during my research is that all 11 structures improved in this data set.
All right, so I get to talk about all the great things that have happened at Ross the last 3 years. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. I was over the primary side, and now I'll be moving over to 3 through 5th. And so when I started, the second graders will be 5th graders next year. And when I started, the kindergartners will be 3rd graders. So they get me all over again, which is exciting for everyone. So in our 3 years, we have increased CAP scores. We've gone from single digits to double digits, which is an accomplishment within itself. We've also are really proud of our movement out of level 1. We are really working hard to get our students on grade level. Another thing that has really increased is our staff retention. We had very few vacancies this year. I think when we started, we had 9 or 10. And this year, I think we have 1 currently. So we're doing very well with staff retention. And then we've also lowered our OSS events. When we started, everyone's like, what are you doing? We're like, we're going to do it. It's okay. And after this year, you see we've cut those by over half. So we've really changed the culture, not only with staff, but with students, being consistent and staying consistent within our leadership. So we know that moving forward, we'll just keep growing. And our goal is to continue student achievement and work towards those CAP scores to keep getting those up.
And this leads into our organizational structure. And Ms. Keck really hit the intentionality we really strive for with this. So Ms. Keck does know all the kindergarten, first and second grade as they move matriculated to third, fourth, and fifth. So she'll get those same students again. The same can be at Eisenhower, where Ms. Hink had 2 years experience at Ross, so she'll know all the sixth and seventh graders. Mr. Kirkwood, who was the dean of students for third through fifth grade, will now be over the Student Success Academy, all sixth graders. And then for my background, I worked with the current, it'll be sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So we'll know a good, at least third to half of the students at both at Eisenhower Middle School. Looking at our structure, we are keeping the school within the school model at Ross. So we'll have Ms. Keck as the lead assistant principal. We'll have an admin intern over the preschool through second, then the mental health supports for both sides of the building. Eisenhower, Ms. Hink will be the lead assistant principal. For seventh grade specifically, Mr. Kirkwood will be sixth grade. Ms. Pine, their current dean of students, had seventh grade last year, so we're having her go to eighth grade, and then we have a consulting teacher. One thing we found in just from our staff at Ross, they spoke to sometimes when you have 2 schools, it's important to have shared positions so it can operate as one. So we do have some positions that'll be at both schools, a school improvement specialist, a mental health mentor, a consulting teacher, and then we have a lead social worker as well.
So within this, we have our school within the school reflection and the lessons that we have learned. We've had some positive change with this model. Feedback has been critical, and we do this every year. So we're always looking for continuous improvement. And then the support between not just Ross now, but it'll be with Ross and Eisenhower.
And then our last slide, I'll have Mr. Kirkwood talk about this, but this will be the Sixth Grade Success Academy. And one interesting thing, once I received this job, I believe it was late April, from May to June, we've met with 44 of Eisenhower Middle School staff. And they really helped formulate this Success Academy and what it looks like. And I'll have Mr. Kirkwood kind of talk about some of the specific details that we're still working on, but we have some in motion right now.
Well, with the Sixth Grade Academy, we're really wanting to kind of engage our students, and not only engage our students, but engage the families in the community as well. We're hoping to do that through some math nights, reading nights, even bring in some speakers to talk to the families, really kind of engaging them. We've talked to a lot of the students, and they're looking forward to the different opportunities that middle school can provide. But having that Sixth Grade Success Academy gives them a good transition year as, you know, kind of getting used to the middle school surroundings. I was able to go over and shadow at the freshman center at Highland Park, and kind of really got a feeling for how the students took ownership to that freshman year and their hallways and their academics, and would really like to transfer some of that to the Eisenhower Sixth Grade Academy. Also, one thing that we want to do is have mentorship and carry that from Ross, because we have several students that have had mentors at Ross, and those mentors want to continue over to Eisenhower with them, as well as add to some of their mentees. So that's kind of what we're looking forward to with the Sixth Grade Academy, and engaging the students through different opportunities, and, you know, kind of excite them to come to school every day. They've even brought up clubs. We've had several bring up chess club, which they're going to have to teach me how to do, because I don't know how to play chess. Also jazz band, which fits in perfectly with the Ross and Eisenhower. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the music school. And so we're really excited about that and really wanting to engage the students as well as the parents and the community in that sixth grade academy.
And just the word success. So one thing we're really working on is belief. And when students hear the word success, they automatically feel like they're successful. So thank you for your time, and we'll stand for any questions.
Are there questions? Yeah, Mr. Tatum.
Dr. Gardner and team, thank you guys for being here. This is, I'm particularly interested in seeing how success, you talk about success, how success can be achieved to greater and greater heights with the Ross and the Eisenhower community. That's one of the school, or the couple of the schools in the district that I think I have a heart for, and I know I'm not the only board member that does. So it's fantastic to see this school within a school model, and really very interested in seeing how this plays out. In particular, well, two questions. The first, in looking at this particular model, I think it's astounding to me that you were able to achieve the success that you were able to accomplish within the 100 days, Dr. Gardner, and really kind of take some pre and post test measures to provide some data for how the intervention changed during the interim. And I'm kind of curious as to are there other school districts, other models that you looked at throughout the country, or even beyond our country to maybe use as models or templates for putting something like this together? And maybe what were some of the findings that you found from those research efforts that maybe you borrowed from in this process?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Tatum. So specifically, when I started working on my dissertation, I really wanted to look at large urban schools with similar demographics and similar history that Ross had. And honestly, that was hard to find a school like that has made a complete turnaround. And so the next step was to find systems that heal or systems that support. And we found out that smaller schools within a large school have really shown to have great impact. So we kind of took the best from different areas and combined it to what works at Ross. So specifically at Ross, one of the, I guess, feedback from staff was it's just a large school. So how can we make it feel like a smaller school, the community school it used to be, but still have the large campus that we have now? So I would say, to answer your question, Mr. Sam, we took the best from the different research and made it fit Topeka Public Schools.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Again, I'll be very interested to find out how this unfolds. And I'd love to come and it's been a while since I've visited out at Ross and Eisenhower. And I will make it a point to do that in the upcoming school year to kind of see how this unfolds in real time. The other thing I was going to ask, you guys seem to have a purple theme going on this evening. Just kind of curious what that's all about.
Okay. We like to show that we are a team. So we usually pick a color theme for events such as this, or family events or community events, so that you see we're all together.
Okay. So so purple was just an arbitrary color that someone just kind of picked?
We had to be Ross Eisenhower today, so we had to do the purple, but oh, okay. Both Ross and Eisenhower are purple.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I did know that. I didn't put two and two together. My mind is on the orange that almost everybody's wearing, except me, because I don't have any orange articles of clothing. Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys.
Keith, I think everybody else knew those were the colors for Ross and Eisenhower.
When I say purple, I think Topeka West.
Yeah.
But I don't think Ross and Eisenhower. Okay.
Mrs. Boley was next, I think.
I have a couple of questions in just different areas. So thank you for being patient with me. How much time will the sixth grade get to spend with the rest of the building?
So right now, Ms. Boley, it'll be during primarily only electives. So we have moved some of the staff that were in sixth grade hall. So the current hallway is D Hall, and it'll be primarily all sixth grade along with Mr. Kirkwood's office as well.
Mhm.
So the only interaction with other students will be currently during electives.
Okay, thank you. Another question about the parent training. Where are you going to look for the parent training? Like through our library, or I think parents are really kind of lost right now, particularly at that age level of how to communicate and set boundaries with kids. Is that going to be some of your parent training to help keep those relationships between the parents and the students, their own children, going strong? Because it's a really difficult transition for parents when middle school comes up.
Exactly right, Ms. Bull. And that's why we're going to tailor some of the training. So the first quarter training, we'll really look at how do you communicate with your teacher? How do you check your students' grades? How do you check attendance? How do you check if they're tardy? And then from there, we're really going to gear it to the needs that we're seeing throughout the school year. So the plan is going to be for sixth grade families to have 4 parent nights specific to exactly what's occurring in the sixth grade Success Academy.
I love that. Thank you. And then my last question is, what foundation data are you going to put in place to watch for success? What data are you going to look at besides just the staff data? Which is really important, I think, at this stage. That staff data is, that you showed us already, will be interesting in the next 100 days when school starts, right?
Yeah, they'll be here before you know it. And
Yeah.
besides looking at, staff data and what the staff has really seen as a need, is looking at just attendance, MAP scores, CAP scores, the same thing every school really looks at for that continuous improvement model.
I didn't know if you found other data you wanted to look at during your dissertation or not. So I just wondered if you had that secret ingredient that you were also looking at. I love this model. As you know, many of you know I worked at Ross, and the size of the building was a hindrance for success for almost everybody. And so what you've done there has been so impressive. So I have such a strong belief that with Eisenhower being pulled into a campus feel and the school within the school there is going to be a huge success. So not to put any pressure on you, but I'm looking forward to you coming back and telling us what a huge success this has been. So thank you all for the work that you're going to be putting in and helping our students be even better at Eisenhower and Ross. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Bully.
Mr. Munoz.
So I'm interested, the staff effort. I think it's really important that you went to staff and you listened to them and that you heard what they shared with you and then you sort of used that to sort of as a part of your plan. I imagine, I don't know, but you tell me that you plan to sort of have regular sort of touching, staff in terms of hearing from them to see how the past 100 days have gone or how the half year have gone and this year has gone. Is that anything that you all have in place in terms of just touching base with staff? So how are we doing so far? What are there areas for corrections as we're going along the school year?
Yeah, one practice that we started at Ross, and I believe Ms. Sharp gave me this, was something called stay interviews, where when it comes to the second quarter, we meet with all the staff just to see where are you at, what are your aspirations, what are things we can fix. And so we plan to implement that same stay interview at Eisenhower Middle School.
Thanks. And it seems to me that you're building on your strongest resource, which is the relationships you all have built with your students and with the staff over the course of their time at Ross and translating that over to Eisenhower and knowing that you can't make miracles with everything. So you start one step at a time with sixth grade and the next year, those sixth graders will be seventh graders, right? And so that you've set yourself up for long-term success, which is more probable the way that you've gone about it. So I just commend you on that. And the last thing I just want to say is that you all seem so excited. You seem like you have a lot of energy and you're really invested in this. And I just want you to know that we all sort of are here and we support you. And that, we want you to give your best effort in this and try things, think outside the box. And that I don't believe that there is failure unless you've not learned something from it. So there are things I imagine I want you to all try things. And if it doesn't come out quite as you hoped, as long as we listen, we get things from that, we learn from it, I consider that a success. So best of luck to you this new year. Thanks so much.
Yes, Ms. Schmidt.
So I know Ms. Boley has a lot more Ross graduates than I do, but this year at graduation, my first group of Ross kids were graduating, so it was kind of fun to see that. So yeah, when Keith says that there are a lot of us that have heart for Southeast School kids, particularly Ross and Eisenhower, I think you've got a challenge in front of you. I think you're not afraid of a challenge because you obviously stepped up to the plate when it came to Ross. Eisenhower has really struggled with consistency in its leadership there. And, I know that there have been people challenge, what's going on there and the safety of people there. So you've got an elephant in front of you. So the data that you presented, the mean post-intervention and pre-intervention data, that was Ross, correct? When you started the Ross, are you going to do the same thing as you step into the Eisenhower side?
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. And actually, Ms. Waterhouse, who works at Eisenhower Middle School, is in the leadership program, and she is working on a survey very similar to that as part of her classwork final project.
That's awesome, because I love when we're data-driven. So we've all touched on the amazing things that you guys are going to accomplish and do. From you as a team, what do you feel like are going to be your biggest challenges? I know when I always step into a new position or I'm interviewing for something, I always ask people, what do you think is going to be, what are going to be my biggest obstacles as I step into this role? And so I'm kind of interested to hear your perspective as you've seen it from afar. And then now as you're planning to take this under your wing, what do you feel like your guys' biggest obstacles are going to be?
That's a great question. And one thing we learned at Ross was when you have a great team, that really helps set the foundation. And we did learn lessons along the way. And some of those lessons along the way were the shared leadership between both schools. Now, obviously, we can't account for everything. And I think that's when culture really sets its tone, is on your toughest days or when the first incident happens, how does your team respond? And the great thing about having 4 people we've worked with for 3 years, we know how to respond and how to react and remain calm and do what's best for kids.
I'm excited. I think Eisenhower students and Eisenhower staff are excited to see your success. I think district-wide, but definitely school building-wide, this is what everybody has envisioned for Eisenhower and just haven't figured out the secret sauce. So hopefully you guys have it.
Think that anybody else follow up? Thank you very much, Dr. Gardner, and thank you, Mrs. Keck and Mrs. Hink and Mr. Kirkwood for coming tonight. We do know that it's the whole team, and we appreciate it, you guys taking on this big challenge. So thank you very much.
All right, at this time, we'll turn it over to Ms. Whiteman, who will help us look further at the proposed cell phone policy and our policy committee. And again, we thank Ross Eisenhower. We know that it's the summer. Don't feel that you need to stay for the full meeting. And if you'd like to stay, you're welcome to do that. But just give you a pass in your beautiful purple. All right, we'll turn it over to the policy conversation.
Good evening. In front of you are the recommendations of the policy committee related to changes to the current policy, board policy 2945. And I'll do a quick summary and then policy committee members may jump in and give further explanation. We put a purpose segment into the policy which deals with the discussions the board had previously about having an educational environment conducive to learning and reducing unnecessary distractions. There is a definition under E there of a personal electronic communication device. We chose a very broad definition, and it does include smartphones, smartwatches, tablets, so that it's all inclusive. Under students, number 2, we broke it down by elementary, middle, and high school, which are the basic buildings that we have. And basically, under the elementary, it's pretty much the current policy requirements there. Under middle school, 6 to 8, they're to be powered off beginning of the school day bell until the end of the school day bell. They are to be stored in their locker or classroom storage area. High school is, again, it is a bell-to-bell policy in the sense that it's prohibited from the beginning of the school day bell through the end of the school day bell. They're to be powered off, out of sight, stored in a backpack or a classroom storage area. There is the exception for high school students that they may use the personal electronic communication device during the lunch period with the approval of the building principal. Under violations, our current policy basically has just 2-step violation. First one was warned, and then the second one was you're reported to the administrator for consequences. The policy committee felt that like all discipline, it's progressive. So on the first violation, it's certainly a warning, direction to put the device away, or it will be confiscated. Documenting the violation. On the second time, the administrator is going to be notified. The device is going to be confiscated and placed in a secure pouch until the end of the day. The third time, and this is the 4 steps, is basically a reminder that they are students, and the adult brain doesn't really develop good judgment until about the age of 27. So we want to give opportunities for them to learn what's appropriate. Third violation, the administrator notified. Phone is confiscated at this time until the parent picks it up. And then the fourth violation, it's confiscated. There's going to be a parent meeting, additional consequences, which could be suspensions, and cell phone and other campus privileges revoked. Under E, it talks about field trips and giving some flexibility to the building principal and the building team to determine if they can be used on field trips or other similar activities, since many of these field trips occur riding a bus and in cars. F is bathrooms. We wanted something, or the team wanted something specific about bathrooms, that they're not to be allowed, or if a student leaves the classroom, their cell phone remains behind, and cell phones are not to be used in bathrooms or locker rooms. Emergency, this is really a version of the current policy, which basically says exceptions may be made to the policy in special circumstances with prior approval from the building principal, based on but not limited to medical needs documented by a licensed physician. But it is a little more flexible, allowing the building principal to make that decision based upon the documentation by a licensed physician. And then addressing if it's including school-wide safety incidents, students shall follow the building staff directions related to the use of cell phones. Buses, number H, or letter H, is pretty much our current policy. We just the policy committee broke it down into numbered so that it's a little easier to read, but basically cell phones are allowed on school buses. However, the flexibility is there if it's determined that they become a nuisance, they're disrupting the bus driver transportation, then they can be restricted. Again, the building principal and bus driver would be involved in that decision. Liability, I, is current policy that the district assumes no responsibility, as we do now. We do not assume any responsibility for the loss of personal electronic devices by students or staff. Number three, or excuse me, Roman numeral 3 addresses employees, and it basically says that the employees shall model the cell phone use and expectations of students. And employees shall not use a cell phone in a manner disrupting or distracting from the instructional time, as our focus in the classroom is always instruction, instruction, instruction. And then D addresses those employees who actually may be driving a vehicle for the district. And then under 4, it's a reminder that possession, there is no constitutional right for anyone to possess a cell phone at school, but it reminds everybody that possession of a cell phone is a privilege which may be forfeited. The A, B, and C are basically part of the current policy. Policy committee members may have other comments, but I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Are there questions, comments? I have a question before I go to Ms. Spoley, and this might be more for Ms. Wallace or Dr. Anderson, but as far as the progressive discipline, so if we have a student that has an issue in first hour and then has an issue in fourth hour and then has an issue in sixth hour, that's not tracked over the day in some sort of system. It would be like kind of classroom specific progressive discipline.
And Mr. Dick stayed just because he knew you might ask a question.
Oh, I didn't even see Mr. Dick.
You can come up and join.
He's hiding.
Yeah, so if it's step 1 of the policy and a teacher has asked a student to put it away and comply with that, there's really probably not a way that we track that in any way. If for some reason a student had an administrator respond, by the way, all of us are set up to do discipline across the district for the most part, everybody has the same kid throughout the day. They would know if it's been multiple times on a kid, or if in this classroom on this day, we've had to respond to it, and now 3 days later, I'm in this classroom and it's another teacher and we've had to do it, then they would know more on the progressive side of the student. But if it's the one warning one day in a classroom, we won't know that from class to class, most likely.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Spoley.
You know, when we started the cell phone thing earlier, the last year, we were trying to work really hard to take the load off of teachers. And now I feel like we put a large load on teachers, particularly during hallway passing time. I am speaking with some building leaders. They're concerned about suspensions, that this is not going to possibly be an easy transition for our students. And so as we get into this policy at the beginning of the year, is our board willing to revisit any concerns or policy, rewriting policy if we have huge concerns? I'm wondering if there's a willingness to examine, take data, to make changes if we need to, as we were talking to Ross. I am really concerned about confrontation and suspensions, particularly at the beginning of the year. And I have some other leadership people that are concerned about that as well. So are we able Ms. Whitman, maybe this is your question. We're able to revisit this. We don't have to hold to, like, really tight to this policy the first year. Are we able to revisit if we have concerns? I mean, we can't teach children if they're suspended.
Right, and the discussion of the policy committee was, there was a discussion about not having them during passing periods at the high school and enforceability of that. But the policy committee expectation, they want to set a high expectation. If a principal called me and asked if they should suspend a student, for a hallway infraction, that would be the last resort, and only after 5 or, the way it's written now, there'd be 4 other steps before you would get to that. And even then, since we're in the business of education, the suspension would only be for not following the rules, which would be 1 to 2 days or 3, just to get their attention. But 99% of the students will be compliant, and it will be the ones who currently have problems with following rules that the principals will be working with as they implement that. But your question about, policies can be changed at any time. The board meets. So if after the first 2 months of the school year, there are problems, this policy can be brought back to the board or the policy committee for review.
I'm thinking of some of our alternative high schools that, this is a big change for students that are struggling anyway. And so I'm concerned about making sure our kids are educated during the academic time. I'm still concerned about the passing time, just to put that on the record for everyone.
If I may offer, my apologies.
Go ahead, Dr. Anderson.
We have the principal superintendent advisory that meets monthly. So I will put this on the agenda to make sure that as we're going to each quarter, since you mentioned a couple months in, that's a quarterly check-in. And then the student superintendent advisory. And that first meeting is end of September often for the students. And so, or maybe middle of October, but we will plan to put this there. And so we'll put this, if desired, on the agenda to share what those advisory committees have brought back to us by the end of first quarter or perhaps first semester. Thank you for that thought.
Mr. Munoz.
Thank you for hearing my voice.
Yeah, I was out of town last week, so I just sort of have taken this week to sort of review things. And if I had to nitpick, the suspension was the one thing that I had sort of underlined. And I wonder if the worst case scenario for students isn't so much being suspended because they're going to be, not in the classroom with their cell phone, right? But the worst case scenario would be having them adhere to a true bell-to-bell and, turning it in at the beginning of class and not getting it for the full day until at the end of the day. To me, somebody would have it, not them, and they'd still be in the classroom, and teachers would be able to help to make sure they're on track. I think that might be one sort of layer before, I don't know about suspension, but that I would like to see, principals sort of consider is that those, and my sense, talking with a number of different teachers, is that majority of the students will adhere to it. It'll be hard, difficult, but they will adhere to what we're asking them, our expectations. But for those habitual violators, we have some, I think, good layers, and perhaps for those habitual, individuals who having a hard time, that adhering by virtue through the administration to the true bell-to-bell might be something before we even think about suspension. So,
Yeah, Ms. Bully.
I just had a suggestion on the document as well on glasses, please. On F, where maybe we should have bathrooms / locker rooms when people are trying to look for policy. Yeah, just so that when anybody's looking for that policy, it has both bathroom and locker room on there, since it's kind of combined in there.
So since it reads in the paragraph, bathrooms or locker rooms? Yeah. Title of the section. Yeah, that's reasonable. Other comments? Or questions? Okay. And then we have that as a possible action item a little bit later on. But first, if you are done with,
I am. I was remiss. I did not acknowledge at the end of
yes,
consent, just before your conversation, you approved the new principal at Chase Middle School, Dr. Hannah Taylor.
ooh, Dr. Taylor.
We're excited about her getting started. Additionally, I noticed when I look to my right, Chef Livingston, who actually brought you all a yearbook, which will be sitting down in the dining hall, the first yearbook. Chef Livingston is the president of the KNEA. And did I say that right? Sometimes the KNEAT. I know, I always do that. NEA Topeka, and Chef Livingston is now in that role. That's why he's with us this evening. And congratulations, sir, on your appointment. Right. And my team is keeping me on track. And then lastly, which I mentioned to you earlier, how excited everyone has been with our Executive Director for Special Education. We want to acknowledge Mr. Mike Lowers, who's hit the ground running, and already people are sending in messages about how thrilled they are with the energy he brings. Mr. Lowers, thank you and welcome. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We do have one more discussion item before our action items, and I don't know if Mr. Minky could come up. It's about the change for the June board meeting and the reason why it would make sense to do it a week later.
Yeah, just to make sure that we capture all of the claims that are necessary to liquidate for FY '25.
And then the same, because our action item would be both for this year, and then also to change the date next year for the same reason, I would assume.
Yeah, it just gives us, again, 5 more working days, when we can spend anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million a day. Throughput through accounts payable, and also on that last claims listing will be our final paychecks for our teachers for July and August, and I'm sure they would appreciate a certified stamp from our board on that as well.
Is there discussion or questions on the board? Mr. Tatum.
So that, Mr. President, what dates would that make?
Yes.
The June meeting?
So it would move from June 19th at 5:30 to June 26th at noon. And then 2026, 20 years later, it would be from June 18th at 5:30 to June 25th at noon.
June 26th, okay.
It's on the action, the specifics.
The 25th or the 26th at noon?
In 2025, it'll be the 26th. In 2026, it'll be the 25th, if that's not confusing enough.
No,
You
no,
can go to
no.
item 21.1 and it's in writing.
Okay, well, Mr. President, I won't be able to attend on the 26th of June of 2025 this year. I'll be teaching a class for KU that day.
Okay.
You guys will have to soldier on without me.
Yes. That would be the motion that we would approve next. This is just the discussion around that, but yes. Correct. That would stay the same. Yep. Yep, it gives us a little, it'll be a good amount of time between those two meetings with the July 4th. Ms. Lister.
The next year, as we get closer, if we do change this, you may want to change
The July.
first July meeting because it happens to be the 2nd, I believe, of July. 4th of July is Saturday, so the work holiday is the 3rd.
That Friday.
You might want to
Or
move that one as well, but we can do that later.
we could even do it the next meeting so we don't forget about it. And then it sneaks up on us. But yeah, so for tonight, it would be approving. The next item would be approving those two changes. Any other questions or workshopping? Thank you, Mr. McGee.
You.
So I think we can move to the action items. And first is the movement on the meetings. And so if anybody is in agreement, I would look for a motion.
I move to approve changing the second June meeting from June 19th, 2025 at 5:30 to June 26th, 2025 at noon. And the 2026 second June meeting from June 18th, 2026 at 5:30 to June 25th, 2026 at noon.
Is there a second for that motion? Mr. Munoz? Is there further discussion? Okay, I'll look for a vote on 21.1.
And the vote is open. And all votes are in and the motion carries.
Ooh, thank you, Ms. Lister. And so then we have the ability to move and vote on the cell phone policy in front of us. And so if there's agreement, I'll look for a motion on that.
Do we want to clarify the updates? Or
That,
do you feel
that
like,
could be done in your motion if you'd like.
well, it says I move to approve the cell phone policy is discussed and updated.
With the amendment, you could make an amendment in your motion if you wanted.
Yeah, to include locker rooms in the title of F, so it would reflect bathrooms and locker rooms. And then I don't know if there's discussion to add another level of violations between what is currently 3 and 4.
You get to make the motion so you can decide.
Yeah, but I wouldn't move it, but
Okay,
but
Then
it was brought up.
yeah, that's the motion.
Yeah, before we do that, I'd like to, Mr. Dick, is he gone or that's okay. It's Dr. Anderson, any idea on if we would prefer before we go to suspension that there be this other level? Or maybe Ms. Whiteman, what is your guys' sense of how we should go about this? Is it just sort of in regulation and practice that principals understand that's our preference, or are we explicit that the bell-to-bell turning in your cell phone for those who are habitual sort of violators of this?
The language in the policy says that additional consequences may be assigned. Now, maybe is discretionary, not mandatory, including, and usually in law and policy, we say may include or up to and including. So you allow flexibility for the administrator. But the idea that was suggested, on the 4th violation, a principal would still, when it talks about additional consequences may be assigned, they would have the authority to implement instead of doing any suspension or taking privileges away. Well, really, if you're at the 4th violation, then a student could be told exactly what I think was discussed. You will, when you come to school, walk in the door, you'll put it in a pouch and you'll get it at the end of the day. So that would all be within a principal's discretion. And generally, principals are trained to, because they're educators and believe in education and kids being in school, for a cell phone violation, they would more than likely use all other alternatives before a suspension.
Yes, and it says may, not will. So because it says may, I think the language already provides opportunity for what you suggested.
And what are your thoughts as far as when they get to this point and they have to turn it in at the beginning of the day and receive it at the end of the day, in terms of the number of days, we just leave that to the discretion of the principals and allow them to?
I think so. I think forfeiting the phone and for the course of the day or in lieu of something else, or perhaps depending on the student and their history and other matters, they have that discretion, which I think is something we may want to give them, and it's written to provide that.
Mr. Tatum.
And so Mrs. Boley put it out there and I didn't, it was not obvious to me that there was any dissension, disapproval on this point. But what Mrs. Boley was asking the board is if we're all in agreement that we can come back at any time to tinker with it, do some fine tuning as this thing kind of rolls forward. I think that sounds like a great idea. And I don't know, Mr. Munoz, if that kind of maybe captures what you are thinking about in terms of adding some of this language in specifically as we move forward. But I think, to me, as long as we're in agreement that this is a work in progress, we're going to come back and revise and make adjustments as needed as we go forward. I think that's probably just as important as the getting the verbiage right today.
Yeah, and I think where I stand is that before we get to suspension, we might consider, I think, what was positioned some of our members here, which was the bell-to-bell, the true bell-to-bell sort of, I'm not sure what you call that, redaction of that cell phone privilege. So we might consider that, principals consider that before suspension, as long as we're explicit and that's understood. Right, I'm fine.
We'll include that in our training with principals when they return in July in terms of how the policy and the latitude they have in some areas where it says may and not will, and the policy overall, the expectation to raise our expectations of our young people. So we'll include that in our training.
There is a motion on the floor still, so I don't know if there's a second.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Munoz Pillo.
Okay.
Now we can discuss it more if we'd like. But I think we discussed it unless there's anything else. Okay, Ms. Lister.
The vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries.
Thank you. And I think that's it, other than board member comments. And so I'm gonna start with Ms. Boley because her seatmates to the left are absent tonight.
With committee reports, I just have one, and that's Head Start. They are in the process of writing and gathering and creating their information for their grant. We scheduled a meeting for Wednesday to talk about the pieces that they already had in place and approval of the policy council. And late in the day, right before that meeting, they got information that the way the grant is going to be written is very different. And so they're kind of having to start over, but it should be easier. It should be less pages, like down to 13 pages they believe. And so they're excited about that part, but they still have a lot of work to do. And so I think some of the information they've gathered is going to work just fine, so that's great. They're very hopeful in receiving their grant. We'll all just keep our fingers crossed and watch for any information if you need to contact your congressmen and senators for early education. Graduation is such a joyful day. It makes me so joyful. I get a little overwhelmed with the joyfulness because isn't that why we sit on the board? It's school success. When kids are promoted or they're graduating, it means our teachers have done a fantastic job. Our administrators have done exactly what they need to do, and our students are moving forward in their lives. And it's just an exciting time. And when I'm there, I just think, look what we've done. All those students that walked across the stage with a high education, look what we've done. Every preschooler that got promoted, look what we've done. We know every single student that walked across that stage is going to be a highly successful student because of early education. And eighth grade, building that confidence in themselves to be promoted and to realize that they've already had that success and now it's their next step of success. I just really want to thank our teachers and our administrators, our leadership team. Look what you've done. It's just an amazing day. I also wanted to thank our coaches. Our coaches have done an amazing job this year getting our students to successfully get scholarships and go to state this year. We've had some great success in getting teams to state and getting students recognized by other schools and their success getting that far. That is a remarkable thing. I wanted to thank Dr. Schumacher, Dr. Anderson, the communications department for sponsoring a hole at the tournament, a golf tournament to help raise money. Thank you for stepping up and doing that. And Dr. Schumacher also put one up for the board. So thank you, Dr. Schumacher. Also, I wanted to thank all our volunteers at our free lunch sites. We have one in my neighborhood, and the church ladies come out in force. They volunteer their time to come show up at the church and feed our students during the summertime. And along with that, they give them books and have reading time. And it's just amazing what our volunteers do across the city. So I wanted to thank them very much. Strategic plan. We were writing one. I don't know that I've heard or know what has been the changes in our our plan. And if that's maybe something we can put on an agenda to bring forward to see what our goals are, what has been changed. And I know I was listening to the State Board of Education talking about the state assessments and how we've used those questions for a long time. We've kind of outused them. They've changed the questions. They made them more relevant. And I'm assuming our plan is the same way. So I'd like to hear the changes and the relevance of that plan. And also I wanted to ask Dr. Schumacher, could you give us your graduation speech just one more time? One more, only one.
I shredded those today at work. And I can't do anything unless it's written down. So
well, thank you.
I have no clue what it said.
Thank you so much for those speeches. And I kind of dream about them at night. They kind of come.
Mrs. Foley, please strike that from the record.
Thank you so much for standing up for our board and representing us so well.
Thank you, Mrs. Foley. I appreciate you. Mr. Tatum.
Okay, so I've got, let's see, a couple of committee reports. Although for the policy committee, you guys have already been made aware of what we've been working on, which is fine tuning to the point that we reached prior to our vote, and bringing you the language that we inserted into the cell phone policy. So there's of course, more work that the policy committee will be undertaking, but that is one of the things that we have prepared for the entire board to vote on most recently. And since I was not here at the meeting at the last meeting in May. I didn't have a chance to report on the DCAC meeting that I was a part of from May 6th. So just wanted to just briefly mention the DCAC appears to be in a bit of flux. They're really kind of trying to find their way and kind of set a new direction. They'll have new officers that they'll elect soon. But I think they're really kind of struggling with achieving a quorum in order to move forward and do business. And that happens a lot in any committee based organization or group that's trying to gain a threshold number of members in order to operate. And of course, the fact that there are challenges with achieving quorum is a direct result of challenges in recruitment, and they're aware of that. And so they really want to kind of figure out how they can kind of draw new people in, entice more folks to be on the DCAC, because they're really doing some pretty important work. They have events and celebrations that they want to start working on to kind of spend time together and share successes and things like that. So I think they've got the right idea, and they've also got some ideas for new impact study possibilities. And I think they're going to wait and kind of develop those a little more fully as things go on, and they're able to elect new officers and hopefully gain some new members of that group. I would absolutely echo what Mrs. Boley said about the joy of graduations. I think I've said before, graduation is one of my favorite days of the year. I'm completely exhausted by the time we get done, but it is so worth it. And this year was no exception to that. So congratulations to all the graduates. Yes, yes. And to all the teachers and administrators and other professionals that help make 2025 be a successful 2024-2025 school year, be successful for everyone. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, I don't have much in terms of policy. We'll be meeting again shortly to start more work on more policy updates. And equity won't meet until we pick up school again later this year. I do want to say that one of my kids, their minds will be blown that one of their teachers is now a new principal at Chase Middle School. So we're very happy to see that. She's a wonderful individual, has done a lot in our school district, and so congratulations to her. And so I was so happy to hear the work that's being done at Ross and Eisenhower, and the sort of the plans they're already putting together, working on to have a successful year here in this fall and next spring. So I look forward to hearing updates from them as far as what they're doing and how students and staff are the beneficiary of all that hard work. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Ms. Schmidt.
All right. For Technology Committee, the updates we got, they're following up on LPA audit items. 13 of those have been resolved. There are several that are still in progress. They're working on some technology policies. There are many summer projects going on. So just because school is out doesn't mean that people aren't still working because they had a load that they were reporting on. One of the things that we did talk about in that meeting quite extensively was about getting devices back, keeping them in the possession of IT over the summer, both student devices and teacher devices. So I've been doing a little research on what kind of policies exist out there, and we'll bring that to Mrs. Whiteman as something that we can talk about in policy. And then they also discussed that they're going to begin talking about some COOP plan for our district. Other than that, we did approve the cell phone policy. So one of my questions is, how are we going to communicate that out? I know we didn't catch people as they left for the year, but I think it's a change and communication is free for the most part. So we really need to be thinking about how we're going to get that word out. Whether we're having the schools post it in the handbooks, if we're starting to put it on the website, social media posts, because I think as far ahead of it as we can get, the less issue hopefully we'll have in the schools. I also think, just kind of as a side note, we need to hold fast when it comes to that and give it some time. If we continue to change our policy year after year after year, how are we ever going to expect anybody to ever know what our policy is? So we can definitely collect data, but I don't know that we'd necessarily, in Lisa's mind at least, want to go change the policy, 3 months into the year, 6 months into the year. Yeah, but we definitely need to be data driven. When we did write it, listening to Mr. Fulbright, who came and spoke, and he was like, well, Hope Street will be a pilot school to be bell to bell, even no school lunch. We tried to write that policy in such a form that they can be more restrictive if they want. But that was kind of where we were setting the expectation. You brought up strategic plan, which I thought was great. Another thing I want to get on our agenda is speaking about FUSIS. I know everybody had the opportunity to go, and I thought we had it on a future.
It's going to be on July 10th.
Okay. Because we've got to tell Chief, yeah, that's definitely something we want to do, so he can talk to Mr. Minky and figure out all the numbers to make all the magic work for the things that we need to be a part of that if it's something we choose to do. So I just want to make sure that we have that conversation. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. I had technology committee, which Lisa covered very well. I will point out there's a grant that we approved that I was pretty excited by, the Craig Zaden Pathway for the Arts grant. So this is through the Educational Theater Foundation, and it offers a $10,000 grant to high schools in support of a production of a musical or play that encourages dialogue on diverse perspectives and experiences. And the fund specifically helps schools bring in professional mentors who reflect the student body. So it allows our kids being able to see themselves in the future as one of these professionals. So seeing a future in theater and exploring career pathways. And so I think it was Mrs. Burr and Mr. Reynolds, they won this grant for Topeka High. And so that will help fund some of the money that goes into a production for this next school year. So that's very exciting. And then I agree with Mr. Tatum around DCAC, and it's like, I don't know if there's things that us as a board could do to help DCAC. I know at one time, because a lot of times DCAC will report back to the school at PTOs and is trying to get excitement around the PTOs. At one time, we talked about kind of as individual board members going out to different PTO meetings to talk with parents and see kind of what the challenges are at the PTO. But even, this year it feels like they were small but mighty, because I do think their work that they did around the cell phone, their report to us was pretty fantastic. And it was really just the two of them that worked on that. And so more help and more momentum around that, because it's silly. My dad used to brag that he was on the parent advice, the DCAC, because it's a big deal. And for somebody that completed maybe a semester of college, if that, and worked hard his whole life to be able to have input into the direction of our district, of our community, I think that's a big thing. And I would agree that trying to help the momentum so we can continue with DCAC. And obviously I agree with Ms. Boley that my speech was fantastic, and all 5 times. And I hope that our staff and our families and our students are enjoying the start to summer break. Obviously, the Mom's Demand, the Wear Orange Day is something, and I've said this before, as a pediatrician is important to me, as a father is important to me, and as a community member, it's important to me. My job in my life is harm reduction. And so doing things in a better way can help that. And that's kind of their mission, especially around the Be Smart. And it's not, I want to get rid of your guns. It's just, I want to make it so my kid can't get your guns. And so I appreciate David and Christy coming tonight. And I think that's all I have. So I just need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I move the meeting adjourn.
And a second. From Ms. Boley. And a vote by hand. The right hand, Ms. Boley, the right hand. Carries unanimously. Thank you.